Hello, welcome to the SRA Specific Skills Grammar Book D. Um, the letter actually represents the grade level, so Book D is considered fourth grade, but by all means, that does not mean that you need to be a fourth grader to look at these particular skills. This book has 16 units, and it's going to go all over all the different parts of speech. So please be sure to take a look at this because I use this for middle and high schoolers. They actually can't believe sometimes the things that they forget, especially when you're test prepping for the SAT or ACT. You tend to focus on the things that you think are going to be more challenging, like the main idea, and you completely forget about, oh, what is a preposition? What's the um, object of the preposition, or something in regards to the technical names of the particular skill set. So it's important for you to do a refresher. If you're a parent, this is actually made for parents in this COVID-19 situation to kind of give you a leg up on what the traditional school rigor and lesson planning that you would do. This is kind of an all-in-one thing. It has notes, it has the work that's directly related to the notes, and then it has the language activity pages that test their ability to utilize that information without the assistance of said notes with enough practice. There are obviously some um, websites and resources that you probably already have access to. Khan Academy, I've seen kids using on various different scales. And iReady, I guess, is another thing too. But I want you to be fully aware that everything that's done in here, take the time to use some creativity. I don't want things to get too dull and too broken down, because these are important skills and it's foundational. So it's really important to allow the creative mind to go on the adventure with the educational mind in this instance. So I've been suggesting on all my other videos regarding the books, the resources for the SRA specific skill series, to use some construction paper, make a little book of notes, and then, these are great things to keep handy at the beginning of every school year when you're rehashing all the information that you've utilized and used. It's really good to just kind of, keep around, even if you don't touch this until when you're studying for the SAT or ACT, for example, and you look over some of this stuff, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that, adjectives can be created from nouns. Oh, that's awesome. So you have the ability to take full advantage of this. Instead of just notebook paper and pencil and or pen to just write down, you can use construction paper with some markers. You know, use a paper cutter and do some hole punching. Make your own little, yarn and tie the edges and things, and make your own little cheat book or whatever. But the first disclaimer I want to say is this is for educational purposes only. If you're planning on printing out these pages, I highly suggest using sheet protectors, because if you do want to use the ABCD, the options for the answers on the pages, you can do that. I know that from what I heard, some of the parents have been printing out the answer key. The answer key is going to be at the end of the video. So just keep in mind that you're going to have the opportunity to have an answer key or have access to the answers. So if you want to use a sheet protector to help you check answers as your students are completing them, that's perfectly fine too. Or have your own copy that you can do yourself to brush up on, because I don't know how many of you are used to going back to you know the information that's being given to students at this particular time and place, um, and really get your head around what they're teaching, how they're teaching it, why it's important, that sort of thing. So if you want to get yourself involved and do the work and answer the questions on your own, and check out and see where you are, that's great and that's perfect, and that's exactly what sheet protectors are good for, because you can just use Windex to clean it off, or a Lysol wipe even, just to get off the dry erase marker, or the Vis-a-Vis or VAV markers that were used, way back when, dating myself. Dot com, the dot coms, the dot cams, and the translucent paper. But as always, if you've not seen the introductory video for these resources, for the specific skills resources, I highly suggest going to YouTube under Casey Kite and looking at that before moving on. If you feel a little overwhelmed and you want a little bit more comfort, that's like the little blanket that's going to wrap you around how this stuff helps out. But now that we're at this particular moment right now, make sure you're reading to the teacher and to the student pages. Those are very important to really take advantage of building this foundation. I'm only going to spend 5 to 6 seconds per page. I will not be talking after the to the student page. I'm going to stop on the to the student page to kind of go over what's going on there, just because I know that you guys do Google searches, and sometimes if you don't see exactly what you're looking for written down, you're going to dismiss this, and it does go over some things that you may not think that it's going to go over. So just give this a chance, and I'll give you the breakdown. I didn't do unit breakdowns in all the other books because it's not as intensive as this, because grammar deals with your parts of speech. So I want to take the time to go through the to the student page, go through the overview, and then break down how the units are broken down. I'm not going to get too into the specifics like the possessive pronouns and like, oh, this is the unit's going to go over possessive pronouns. No, I'm just going to let you know if it's covering more than one unit, then it's going to be intensive. You're going to have all the details there. All right. This is the to the student page. I want you to see how they're breaking everything down. First, at the beginning of every unit, at the top of the page, there's going to be a box with information. Those are the rules with an example provided. I also want to make sure that you understand that sometimes they use context that may not be time appropriate. So I've said before on many occasions, this is an older book, but the rules for grammar aren't going to go berserk, at least not in this time period, and it hasn't since before. So this is an older resource, so it's going to reference things like VCRs. So just tell them it's like CDs or MP3 players when it, as far as like abbreviations and things like that. So if they don't know, don't let that be an obstacle or hindrance to continue the work, the lesson, because you don't want to waste your time explaining something like that. As long as they understand, hey, it's a mechanical electronic device that was used way back when, but based on the context, you know what it is, right? And you allow your student or your child to be able to answer that, and hopefully they come up with something reasonable. If not, at least you get a good chuckle, get some entertainment in there, and then kind of break it down for them. But this is the overview. This book has a total of 16 units. As you can see, there's less than 16 objectives here. So the way the units are broken down is Unit 1, so these are all single units: nouns, pronouns, verbs. Actually, nouns is units 1 and 2, because you get the nouns, because you have nouns and then possessive nouns. So then you get into your pronouns, and the pronouns are going to be 3 units. Verbs are their own, adjective, adverbs, prepositions. All of these are singles, so that the rest have 1 unit apiece. So it's going to go over some of that. Here is an example of some of the things you're going to be seeing. So they're showing you how they're going to identify the different parts of speech. This is not all in one lesson. If it's in nouns, then you're going to have a sentence like this that's only going to point to the noun, which is the subject of the sentence. So here you're going to have the clauses. So now they're giving you an example of like something that's more intensive. So before you can get to clauses, you obviously need to know all these other things beforehand. So everything's going to gradually build. The best thing about this is every few units there is a language activity page that's going to assess how well you have retained, learned the information from before and add some rigor. So they're going to create some intensity there just to make sure that the foundation's secure. If your students have more problems, have them go through the problems again. Maybe go online and you can look up Khan Academy or look up some worksheets to identify specifically, since you can use Google and you can just use grammar and do nouns or whatever the topic is. Based on the pages, you'll definitely be able to find resources. And of course, at the very bottom, you're going to have what your student would actually be familiar with, which is the learning goal or the learning objective of the book itself. So based on the lessons or the units that are provided in this book, these are the things that this is the goal of the entire book. So everything's in a nutshell here. All right, and then from here on out, mum's the word, 5 to 6 seconds per page, and then the answer key. And I'm going to show you the answer key. Hold on a second. And this particular book has 2 pages of answer keys because it's more units than some of the other books. So this is page 1 of the answer key. I'm going to zoom in just because you're going to need to look at the answers for the language activity pages to get the answers for them. And the answer key goes in chronological order by page and unit, and they include the subject matter. So by looking at the answer key, you have an idea of how each section is broken down to help you better search for additional resources if you want more practice. So right now I'm just scrolling so you can see the answer to some of these units, which I'm assuming you're going to end up printing this page out and utilizing in your own. And I'm going to zoom in for the activity pages. So the first and second lap are right here, so you can get a better view. And then the third lap is right here. I probably could have just done one. No, they wouldn't have all fit. Alright, so I got the unit the third lap is right here, so you can look at your answers here. Alright. Zoom that back in. Close that out. Go to this second page. And there, you have the answers for Unit 16 and the last lap. And you can go to KC Kite on YouTube if you want to view these videos and other SRA specific skills lessons